The Big Apple, the city that never sleeps, Gotham, whatever its name, New York City has something for every taste and every traveler. From incredible art galleries and museums to some of the world's best restaurants, New York's many offerings are well known to most visitors. But to explore the real New York, the vibrant, charming, and predictably unpredictable city that engenders such passion among locals and envy among visitors, it helps to have an insider's perspective. One of the greatest cities in the world, New York is always a whirlwind of activity, with famous sights at every turn and never enough time to see them all. Some people come here to enjoy the Broadway shows, others come specifically to shop and dine, and many come simply to see the sights: the Statue of Liberty, Empire State Building, Brooklyn Bridge, Central Park, historic neighborhoods, and numerous world-famous museums. Many of the best places to visit in New York are within walking distance of each other, or just a short ride away, making this city a delight for sightseeing. Needless to say, New York is a city in constant flux, with swanky new hotels, restaurants, bars, and attractions popping up all the time. Let's watch top visited places in New York. The Statue of Liberty is a colossal neoclassical sculpture on Liberty Island in New York Harbor in New York, in the United States America. The copper statue, a gift from the people of France to the people of the United States, was designed by French sculptor Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi, and its metal framework was built by Gustave Eiffel. The statue was dedicated on October 28, 1886. The Statue of Liberty is a figure of Libertas, a robed ancient liberty goddess. She holds a torch above her head with her right hand, and in her left hand carries a tabula inscribed in ancient numerals with the date of the U.S. Declaration of Independence. A broken shackle and chain lie at her feet as she walks forward, commemorating the recent national abolition of slavery. After its dedication, the statue became an icon of freedom and of the United States. It has been a welcoming sight to immigrants arriving by sea. The Statue of Liberty was France's gift to America. Built in 1886, it remains a famous world symbol of freedom and one of the greatest American icons. It is one of the world's largest statues, standing just under 152 feet tall from the base to the torch, and weighing approximately 450,000 pounds. You can see the statue from land, with particularly good views from Battery Park, on the southern tip of Manhattan. However, to truly appreciate the Statue of Liberty, the best thing to do is to take a short boat trip to Liberty Island and see it up close. You can walk around the base, enter the pedestal, or, with advance reservations, go right up to the crown. On a tour to the Statue of Liberty, you have the option to stop at Ellis Island and explore the Immigration Museum. This fantastic museum is located in the historic Immigration Station complex, where thousands of immigrants were processed before entering the United States. Central Park is an urban park in Manhattan, New York City, located between the Upper West Side and the Upper East Side. It is the fifth largest park in New York City by area, covering 843 acres. Central Park is the most visited urban park in the United States, with an estimated 38 million visitors annually, as well as one of the most filmed locations in the world. Following proposals for a large park in Manhattan during the 1840s, Central Park was first approved in 1853 as a 778-acre park. In 1857, landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted and architect-landscape designer Calvert Vaux won a design competition to construct the park with a plan they titled the Greensward Plan. Construction began the same year, and the park's first areas were opened to the public in late 1858. Additional land at the northern end of Central Park was purchased in 1859, and the park was completed in 1876. A walk, pedal, or carriage ride through the crisscrossing pathways of Central Park is a must-do on anyone's New York City itinerary. This huge park in the city center, a half-mile wide and 2.5 miles long, is one of the things that makes New York such a beautiful and livable city. Besides being a great place to experience a little nature, Central Park has many attractions within its borders, and most of them are free, making it one of the few cheap things to do in NYC. Some of the most popular places to visit include the Belvedere Castle, Strawberry Fields, the Central Park Zoo, and the lake. If you are exploring the park on your own, start by picking up a map at one of the visitor centers and plot your routing. Times Square is a major commercial intersection, tourist destination, entertainment center, and neighborhood in the Midtown Manhattan section of New York City, at the junction of Broadway and 7th Avenue. Brightly lit by numerous billboards and advertisements, it stretches from West 42nd to West 47th Streets, and is sometimes referred to as the crossroads of the world, the center of the universe, the heart of the Great White Way, and the heart of the world. One of the world's busiest pedestrian areas, it is also the hub of the Broadway Theater District and a major center of the world's entertainment industry. Times Square is one of the world's most visited tourist attractions, drawing an estimated 50 million visitors annually. Approximately 330,000 people pass through Times Square daily, many of them tourists, while over 460,000 pedestrians walk through Times Square on its busiest days. Formerly known as Longacre Square, Times Square was renamed in 1904 after the New York Times moved its headquarters to the then newly erected Times Building, now 1 Times Square. This is also the location of New York's New Year's Eve celebrations and the famous ball drop, at midnight, when the square and surrounding streets are filled with people. Times Square is busy and perpetually crowded but has its own unique appeal. Bleachers set up at one end are a great place to take a break and appreciate the scene. Rockefeller Center is a large complex consisting of 19 commercial buildings covering 22 acres between 48th Street and 51st Street in Midtown Manhattan, New York City. The 14 original Art Deco buildings, commissioned by the Rockefeller family, span the area between 5th Avenue and 6th Avenue, split by a large sunken square and a private street called Rockefeller Plaza. Construction of Rockefeller Center started in 1931, and the first buildings opened in 1933. When it comes to New York attractions, Rockefeller Center is on almost all tourists' itineraries. This vast entertainment and shopping complex in the middle of Manhattan is home to NBC TV and other media, but the centerpiece is the 70-story 30 Rockefeller Plaza, an Art Deco skyscraper that offers awesome views over Manhattan from the famous top of the Rock Observation Deck. The deck, as it's known, includes 3 floors, located on the 67th, 69th, and 70th floors. Indoor and outdoor viewing spaces offer spectacular views by day or night. You can buy a top of the Rock Observation Deck ticket in advance. Skating on the outdoor skating rink at the base of the tower is one of the most popular things to do in winter in New York City. The rink is typically open from October to April. After Thanksgiving, a huge Christmas tree is erected in front of the skating rink, lighting up the complex for the holiday season. Many people visit New York in December just to see this. Another point of interest in this area is the famous bronze sculpture of Atlas in front of the International Building. It's a popular subject for photographers. The Brooklyn Bridge, with its Gothic-shaped arches and suspension cables, is one of the city's most recognizable landmarks and has inspired generations of poets, songwriters, and painters. This historic bridge, spanning the East River from Manhattan to Brooklyn, was completed in 1883 and was the world's first steel suspension bridge. You can see it from many of the ferries, or the east side of Manhattan, but the best way to experience this icon is to take an hour and walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. A wood plank walkway, only open to pedestrians and cyclists, runs above the lanes of traffic. If you are not up for walking the whole distance, at least go as far as the first pillar, where there is a viewing platform, and you can see one of the granite towers up close. From the bridge are beautiful views over Manhattan, the East River, and beyond to the Statue of Liberty. Biking over the bridge is another option, but pedestrian traffic is often very heavy, and cycling can be slow and challenging on busy days. Be aware that the access to the bridge begins well back from the water's edge. The Empire State Building is one of New York's most famous landmark buildings and key tourist attractions. The 381-meter-tall, 103-story building was the tallest in the world until the One World Trade Center tower rose higher, 41 years later. Topped with a mooring mast for airships, the Empire State Building immediately became a landmark and a symbol for NYC when it opened in 1931. There are actually two observatories atop the Empire State Building, but both offer astounding views. On clear days, you can see up to 80 miles, looking into the neighboring states of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. The 86th floor observatory, 1,050 feet, is the city's highest open-air observation deck, and what most people are expecting to find when they go up the Empire State Building. If it feels familiar, it's because this area has been featured in countless movies and TV shows. Reached by high-speed, automatic elevators, it has both a glass-enclosed area, which is heated in winter and cooled in summer, and spacious outdoor promenades on all four sides of the building. Views are incredible. Grand Central Terminal, often called Grand Central Station, is a fantastic Beaux-Arts building, and it's definitely worth popping in to take a look at this famous landmark. The building first opened in 1913 as a terminal for the subway and train stations. Grand Central Terminal is a commuter rail terminal located at 42nd Street and Park Avenue in Midtown Manhattan, New York City. The terminal is the third busiest train station in North America, after New York Penn Station and Toronto Union Station. The distinctive architecture and interior design of Grand Central Terminal's station house have earned it several landmark designations, including as a National Historic Landmark. Its Beaux-Arts design incorporates numerous works of art. Grand Central Terminal is one of the world's 10 most visited tourist attractions, with 21.9 million visitors in 2013, excluding train and subway passengers. The terminal's main concourse is often used as a meeting place, and is especially featured in films and television. Grand Central Terminal contains a variety of stores and food vendors, including a food court on its lower-level concourse. Bryant Park is a 9.6-acre public park located in the New York City borough of Manhattan. Privately managed, it is located between 5th Avenue and Avenue of the Americas and between 40th and 42nd Streets in Midtown Manhattan. The eastern half of Bryant Park is occupied by the main branch of the New York Public Library. The western half, which contains a lawn, shaded walkways, and amenities such as a carousel, is located entirely over an underground structure that houses the library stacks. The park hosts several events, including a seasonal winter village with an ice rink and shops during the winter. The first park at the site was opened in 1847 and was called Reservoir Square due to its proximity to the Croton Distributing Reservoir. Bryant Park was a seedy area known for crime and a hangout for undesirables until 1989 when the city reclaimed it and turned it into a beautiful urban oasis. Locals have embraced this park, and today, it's a pleasure to walk through. Manhattan's Chinatown is a neighborhood in Lower Manhattan, New York City, bordering the Lower East Side to its east, Little Italy to its north, Civic Center to its south, and Tribeca to its west. With an estimated population of 90,000 to 100,000 people, Chinatown is home to the highest concentration of Chinese people in the Western Hemisphere. Manhattan's Chinatown is also one of the oldest Chinese ethnic enclaves. The Manhattan Chinatown is one of 9 Chinatown neighborhoods in New York City, as well as one of 12 in the New York metropolitan area, which contains the largest ethnic Chinese population outside of Asia, comprising an estimated 893,697 uniracial individuals as of 2017. Historically, Chinatown was primarily populated by Cantonese speakers. However, in the 1980s and 1990s, large numbers of Fujonese-speaking immigrants also arrived and formed a sub-neighborhood annexed to the eastern portion of Chinatown east of the Bowery, which has become known as Little Fuzhou, subdivided away from the primarily Cantonese-populated original long-time established Chinatown of Manhattan from the proximity of the Bowery going west, known as Little Hong Kong, Guangdong. The Flatiron Building, originally the Fuller Building, is a triangular 22-story, 285-foot-tall steel-framed landmarked building located at 175 Fifth Avenue in the Flatiron District neighborhood of the Borough of Manhattan, New York City. Upon completion in 1902, it was one of the tallest buildings in the city at 20 floors high and one of only 2 skyscrapers north of 14th Street, the other being the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company Tower, 1 block east. The building sits on a triangular block formed by 5th Avenue, Broadway, and East 22nd Street, where the building's 87-foot back end is located, with East 23rd Street grazing the triangle's northern peak. As with numerous other wedge-shaped buildings, the name Flatiron derives from its resemblance to a cast-iron clothes iron. The building, which has been called one of the world's most iconic skyscrapers and a quintessential symbol of New York City, anchors the south end of Madison Square and the north end of the Ladies Mile Historic District. The neighborhood around it is called the Flatiron District after its signature building, which has become an icon of New York City. The Cathedral of St. Patrick is a decorated neo-Gothic Roman Catholic cathedral in the United States and a prominent landmark of New York City. It is the seat of the Archbishop of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of New York as well as parish church, located on the east side of 5th Avenue between 50th and 51st Streets in Midtown Manhattan, directly across the street from Rockefeller Center, facing the Atlas statue and the International Building. It is considered one of the most visible symbols of Roman Catholicism in New York City and the United States. St. Patrick's Cathedral is one of New York's finest examples of Gothic revival, with its massive bronze doors, white marble facade, 330-foot spires, the great organ, rose window, bronze baldachin, 2,400 seating capacity, and the statue of Pietà at the side of the Lady Chapel. With millions of visitors annually, the cathedral is a major destination for believers and tourists alike. The building was erected in 1879 and has been carefully restored and maintained throughout its existence, including a $200 million renovation that was completed in 2016. Wall Street, stretching for 8 city blocks from Broadway to South Street, is the world-famous Wall Street. This street and the surrounding area are home to some of the most important exchanges in the world, including the New York Stock Exchange, the Nasdaq, and the New York Mercantile Exchange. Also located nearby are the impressive Trinity Church and Federal Hall. Look for the bronze statue of Charging Bull at Bowling Green, on Broadway. This is one of the most popular tourist attractions in the financial district and a popular photo opportunity for visitors. The New York Botanical Garden is a botanical garden located at Bronx Park, in the Bronx, New York City. The 250-acre site contains a landscape with over 1 million living plants, the Enid A. Haupt Conservatory, a greenhouse containing several habitats, and the Lou Esther T. Mertz Library, which contains one of the world's largest collections of botany-related texts. As of 2016, over 1 million people visit the New York Botanical Garden annually. NYBG is also a major educational institution, teaching visitors about plant science, ecology, and healthful eating through NYBG's interactive programming. Nearly 90,000 of the annual visitors are children from underserved neighboring communities. An additional 3,000 are teachers from New York City's public school system participating in professional development programs that train them to teach science courses at all grade levels. NYBG operates one of the world's largest plant research and conservation programs, with nearly 600 staff members. Since 1967, the garden has been listed as a National Historic Landmark. The United Nations is headquartered in New York City, in a complex designed by a board of architects led by Wallace Harrison, and built by the architectural firm Harrison Abramovitz. The complex has served as the official headquarters of the United Nations since its completion in 1952. It is located in the Turtle Bay neighborhood of Manhattan, on 17 to 18 acres of grounds overlooking the East River. Its borders are First Avenue on the west, East 42nd Street to the south, East 48th Street on the north, and the East River to the east. The term Turtle Bay is occasionally used as a metonym for the UN headquarters or for the United Nations as a whole. The headquarters holds the seats of the principal organs of the UN, including the General Assembly and the Security Council, but excluding the International Court of Justice, which is seated in The Hague. The United Nations has 3 additional, subsidiary, regional headquarters, or headquarters districts. These were opened in Geneva in 1946, Vienna in 1980, and Nairobi in 1996. The New York Transit Museum is a museum that displays historical artifacts of the New York City subway, bus, and commuter rail systems in the greater New York City metropolitan region. The main museum is located in the decommissioned Court Street subway station in downtown Brooklyn and Brooklyn Heights in the New York City borough of Brooklyn. There is a smaller satellite museum annex in Grand Central Terminal in Midtown Manhattan. The museum is a self-supporting division of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. The New York Aquarium is the oldest continually operating aquarium in the United States, located on the Riegelman Boardwalk in Coney Island, Brooklyn, New York City. It was founded at Castle Garden in Battery Park, Manhattan in 1896, and moved to Coney Island in 1957. The aquarium is operated by the Wildlife Conservation Society as part of its integrated system of 4 zoos and 1 aquarium, most notably the Bronx Zoo. It is accredited by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. As part of WCS, the aquarium's mission is to save wildlife and wild places worldwide through science, conservation action, education, and inspiring people to value nature. The facility occupies 14 acres and boasts 266 species of aquatic wildlife. Its mission is to raise public awareness about issues facing the ocean and its inhabitants with special exhibits, public events and research. The New York Seascape Program, based out of the aquarium, is WCS's local conservation program designed to restore healthy populations of marine species and protect New York waters, which are vital to the area's economic and cultural vitality. Vessel is a structure and visitor attraction built as part of the Hudson Yards redevelopment project in Manhattan, New York City, New York. Built to plans by the British designer Thomas Heatherwick, the elaborate honeycomb-like structure rises 16 stories and consists of 154 flights of stairs, 2,500 steps, and 80 landings for visitors to climb. Vessel is the main feature of the 5-acre Hudson Yards public square. Funded by Hudson Yards developer-related companies, its final cost is expected to be $200 million. The concept of Vessel was unveiled to the public on September 14, 2016. Construction began in April 2017, with the pieces being manufactured in Italy and shipped to the United States. Vessel topped out in December 2017 with the installation of its highest piece, and it opened on March 15, 2019. The structure's name is temporary, as indicated by the TKA abbreviation, which temporarily known as. Upon opening, Vessel received mixed reviews, with some critics praising its prominent placement within Hudson Yards, and others deriding the structure as extravagant. Flushing Meadows Park, often referred to as Flushing Meadows Park, or simply Flushing Meadows, is a public park in the northern part of Queens, New York City. It is bounded by I-678 on the east, Grand Central Parkway on the west, Flushing Bay on the north, and Union Turnpike on the south. Flushing Meadows Corona Park is the 4th largest public park in New York City, with a total area of 897 acres. The site of the park was once geologically part of the Hudson River. Starting in the first decade of the 20th century, it was used as a dumping ground for ashes, since at the time, the land was so far away from the developed parts of New York City as to be considered almost worthless. New York City Parks Commissioner Robert Moses first conceived the idea of developing a large park in Flushing Meadow in the 1920s as part of a system of parks across eastern Queens. Flushing Meadows Corona Park was created as the site of the 1939 New York World's Fair and also hosted the 1964 New York World's Fair. Following the 1964 fair, the park fell into disrepair, although some improvements have taken place since the 1990s and 2000s. Flushing Meadows Corona Park has hosted 2 World Fairs and been home to the New York Mets for over 5 decades. It's perhaps most well-known as the site of the U.S. Open, which attracts thousands of visitors to the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center each year. The Museum of Modern Art is an art museum located in Midtown Manhattan, New York City, on 53rd Street between 5th and 6th Avenues. It plays a major role in developing and collecting modern art, and is often identified as one of the largest and most influential museums of modern art in the world. MoMA's collection offers an overview of modern and contemporary art, including works of architecture and design, drawing, painting, sculpture, photography, prints, illustrated books and artists' books, film, and electronic media. The MoMA library includes approximately 300,000 books and exhibition catalogs, over 1,000 periodical titles, and over 40,000 files of ephemera about individual artists and groups. The archives hold primary source material related to the history of modern and contemporary art. The Metropolitan Museum of Art maintains a museum and library of art in the city of New York. The Metropolitan Museum of Art, or the Met, as it is commonly known, was founded in 1870, and is one of the most famous museums in the United States. The permanent collection of the Met contains more than 2 million works of art, spanning a period of 5,000 years. Although the museum has 3 sites, the centerpiece is the Met Fifth Avenue. Its main collections include arms and armor, ancient Near Eastern art, Asian art, costumes, drawings and prints, European sculpture and decorative arts, Greek and Roman art, Islamic art, medieval art, modern and contemporary art, musical instruments, photographs, as well as the arts of Africa, Oceania, and the Americas. Exhibitions bring some of the world's most famous works to the public. Washington Square Park is a 9.75-acre public park in the Greenwich Village neighborhood of Lower Manhattan, New York City. One of the best known of New York City's public parks, it is an icon as well as a meeting place and center for cultural activity. It is operated by the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation. The park is an open space, dominated by the Washington Square Arch at the northern gateway to the park, with a tradition of celebrating nonconformity. The park's fountain area has long been one of the city's popular spots for residents and tourists. Most of the buildings surrounding the park now belong to New York University, but many have at one time served as homes and studios for artists. Some of the buildings have been built by NYU while others have been converted from their former uses into academic and residential buildings.